Yo, 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 you are listening to the North Shore Line podcast presented by FanDuel. This is The Point, and I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. And with me, we have a full panel, 4 people on here to debate on baseball, the Pirates, all kinds of fun stuff. So let me go ahead and introduce you all. Actually, I'll have you guys introduce yourself. So on the top left, Nutzy. And you're on mute.
I'm Nutzy. You know, you'd think that being a content creator, I'd be better at this. You guys probably have seen me on Twitter or Twitch or YouTube or TikTok or wherever you enjoy your baseball stuff. You can also call me Logan.
All right, Logan. Top right, Doug.
I'm Doug, North Shore Nine's very own curmudgeon. So, you know, and you probably don't see me anywhere because, you know, I'm inept when it comes to social media. So.
All right, bottom right, Jose.
I'm Jose Negron, Pirates beat reporter for DK Pittsburgh Sports, and good to be here.
Awesome. And we'll finish it out, bottom left, Dominic.
Hey guys, Dominic Campbell here. I cover the Pirates for Pittsburgh Pirates on SI. Last year's my first year, so excited for 2026.
There you go. And making your NS9 debut. So fellas, ladies, gentlemen, be kind to them, maybe boosting some points. I'm just the host. I have no say-so on this. But let's go ahead. We'll have a fun show today. You know, everyone knows we have like three topics. We'll all kind of debate this and such, but I want to start with a little bit of an icebreaker, literally almost an icebreaker, because it is cold as hell outside. Even for me down here, I want to know your guys' take. I mean, winter, does it suck? Is it okay? Do you guys like it? Doug, let's start with you.
I live in Alabama. Last year I spent in Jacksonville. Winter is, right. It was 28 degrees this morning, but it got up to 59. So, it's like, I grew up in Western Pennsylvania and that was winter. I spent 5 years in Chicago, 9 years in Boston. That was winter. Winter to me now is a non-entity. If we have a couple cold days, I know 70s were right around the corner. So, I don't care. It's like, let's have some winter. I'm fine with it.
All right, Dominic.
I like having 4 seasons. I like living in Pittsburgh and having the 4 seasons, so I do enjoy the winter. I think it does get tough with how early the sun sets, especially early on. The cold does get a bit annoying at times, but I love going sledding when it snows out. I like being able to wear longer clothes at times instead of like just sweating all the time in the summer. And I like going ice skating and just enjoying things that I normally wouldn't in the summer. I would say I enjoy like the fall and maybe the summer a little bit more, just because being cold kind of stinks at times. But like I said, a lot of fun in the winter. You can if you have a positive mindset to some extent.
Well, I'm a Pirates fan, so positive mindset's out. Go Jose.
Not a big fan of winter, but I am a big fan of getting to skip a few months of winter whenever head down south for spring training. So looking forward to the months of February and March where I don't have to deal with the snow. It'll be exciting.
Right. I like that. All right. And Logan.
You can call me Nutzy if it's better for you. I don't
All right, I'm calling you Nutzy.
Okay. So I live in Montana. We do have very real winters here. Winter is the worst. I enjoy having seasons as well, but I enjoy 3 of them. The 4th one is less fun. We get a lot of snow. It gets really, really cold. You have to drive a long ways to get anywhere in this freaking state. I don't ski. I don't snowboard. I don't do winter sports. And it's the dead period for my sports fandom. I follow the Pens, but I prefer my baseball season. I prefer my heart of the NFL season. If you deleted 4 months from the calendar, I would be more than thrilled.
So that's the right answer. I hope everyone's paying attention. That's the right answer. All right. Love it, guys. Well, let's move on to the actual questions, the real meat and potatoes of the show. Now, Pirates Fest is basically a week away. Now, we're talking about winter. That is something that's enjoyable for a lot of fans with Pirates Fest, when they do have it. And they've been having it for quite some time now. So that's good. but is returning. And I feel like this year's gonna be maybe a little bit different. I mean, so far there's no Andrew McCutchen that's been signed. That's kind of been like a staple since the return of Pirates Fest. Andrew McCutchen signs, he shows up. They may or may not spell his name correctly, but he's there. And, the fans get to enjoy that. So far, he's not signed. And it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of smoke, out there that he will be a Pirate. So my question to you is, is Andrew McCutchen going to be at Pirates Fest? And is he going to be a Pirate for 2026? Jose.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it – I wouldn't say that the door is ever closed for Andrew McCutchen. I think the door is going to be always open for him. Obviously, very strange in the sense that, last year he was signed before Christmas. I think in years past it was around that same time as well, signing those one-year deals. At this point, I just can't really see where it fits in terms of kind of him being DH only, him being limited to that one spot. You have other guys who are going to have to be getting at bats out of the DH spot, guys like Brian O'Hearn, who I'm sure will get some DH duties, play some first, maybe play some right. Brian Reynolds is going to have to get some DH at bats as well. Maybe even a guy like Spencer Horwitz might have to get some DH at bats. So it would be very interesting to see how they would manufacture giving him the at bats that he needs at the DH position. I think that Andrew McCutchen still has a bit in the tank. For a guy who's, getting close to the age of 40, he can definitely hang with the bat and he can still produce. But I also want to think that he's a guy who wants to win and he wants to get a ring. Hasn't been able to do it in his career. And I think it might be time just for both sides to part. But at the same time, I don't see the door closed on a potential Andrew McCutchen return.
Okay. Well, Nutzy, give your take.
Yeah, so I don't think he'll be at Pirates Fest. Like if he signs, I think it's going to come right before the spring or maybe right after spring kicks off. I do think that there is a place for him on the Pirates, and I do think he should be back on the Pirates. If for anything else, as a locker room guy who's been with this franchise for a long time, understands the ups and downs of ownership, understands the ups and downs of front office, has seen success in other places, has seen what playoff baseball means to this city, and can explain that to the rest of the team. If I'm being completely honest, I do think Kutch has enough in the tank to at least come in and be a bench piece. Now, there's a real question of will Kutch want to come in and be a bench piece? But if we're missing one thing in this lineup construction right now, it's right-handed bats. So he would give a right-handed bat that could come in, get hits when you need to get hits, get on base when you need to get on base. Last year was not as good as his year 2 years ago, but he was still a 95 OPS plus player. He still has enough to be a bench guy, a locker room guy, and realistically, you're not going to have to spend that much on him to bring him back. I just think for what he means to the franchise and what he could mean to a playoff run, I think he should be on the roster.
Well stated. Curmudgeon Doug.
I don't know, if he'll be back. I do think there's room for him. I think you DH him against left-handed pitching. You put O'Hearn at first base on those days. You set Horwitz. Even the past couple of years, he's kind of sort of hindered lineup construction somewhat because they just won't play him in the outfield. I'm not saying he should play 3 times a week, but he can't play once a week. He can't play Sundays, in right field or something. That would make it a little more helpful. But yeah, he's exactly what the Pirates need as far as a right-handed bat. A guy that's not all strikeout, he gets on base, he takes a walk, he'd certainly that lineup, if he's batting 6th or 7th, that's night and day different than what we've had in the past in that kind of spot. Again, there's a spot for him. The price is right. I've always felt that Ben Cherington has sort of thought, and it has been forced on him, I guess. But I don't know how eager he is. But if Kutch wants to come back, he knows who to call. Like I said, I really have no idea what will happen, but I think there's room for him.
And round it out, Dominic.
Took all the good points from me. But yeah, like what Doug said, I think it's up to whether the Pirates brass really wants him back and they see him as an actual important piece on this team. Like Kutch isn't just going to go out into the sunset and just enjoy his time. I think he really wants to be a productive member of this team. And if the Pirates don't think he can do that, I'm not exactly sure if he would want to come back. I think it's got to be like, hey, I want this role. Can I have this role? Is the role you envision for me? And then the Pirates have to be like yes or no. And then I think Kutch will probably decide going forward whether or not that makes sense for him. I think, like Doug said, right-handed bat, they need that. Clearly, they have a lot of lefties, which is good, but you need a few right-hand bats in there. But at the same time, it's like, Kutch isn't afraid to speak his mind, and he's not afraid at this point of his career to make the decisions he needs to for himself. And so if he doesn't think the Pirates are going to give him a role that would suit him, I think he would probably look elsewhere.
Yeah. Now, Nutzy, you mentioned how, you don't see him being there for Pirates Fest, and it is a week away, so that's probably pretty fair. But you did also say that, maybe like closer to spring training. How long do you think Kutch maybe is going to wait out for the Pirates to come to him before he might make a decision and say, you know what? I got this offer out here. I want to play. I'm going there. Sorry.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of hard to say because we don't really know what the communication has been between Kutch and the Pirates at this point. There's been some reporting that, the Pirates weren't overly interested in bringing him back, and then Kutch refuted that pretty decisively on Twitter. But I do think that if someone, I don't even know who it would be, like a Milwaukee or Chicago, or someone comes in and says, Andrew, we'll pay you $6 million to come in and DH against lefties, and that's your role on this squad. I don't think Kutch is ready to hang them up yet. I think he does want to play another year. It's hard pressed for me to say that Kutch would not be one of the best, 14 guys or 14 hitters on this roster as we sit here today. And if you're telling me like, am I going to have, Joey Bart as a DH as lefties, or would I rather have Andrew McCutchen as a DH against lefties? I think that's a real conversation I want to have. Now, I will say, obviously, Bart does then have the positional diversity of being able to go behind the plate, and Kutch can't put on catcher gear. But it's hard for me to think that there's 14 better hitters on this roster currently for the Pirates than Andrew McCutchen would be.
Yeah. No, and I'm about to bounce it back to you, Jose. There is a roster crunch. The Pirates seem to only really want to entertain him as a DH, not put him in the field, even though he seems very willing to do so. But, when you do look at his bench, even though you're talking about the Ryan Hearns, the Brian Reynolds, the Laus, and such that. I mean, they're all like everyday players, but like even look at the bench. Do you think maybe if there's a reduced role, Kutch would be willing to accept that, knowing that he's going to be very, very limited part-time as a DH, more of a bench guy and such, that he'll come back to the Pirates and do so?
It's tough, just because I think we all know how much of a competitor Andrew McCutchen is. He wants to be out there every day. Like if he's physically able to be out there, he wants to be out there. I mean, there were times this season where, he was on the bench. He wasn't getting some starts, and you could tell that there was some frustration there. He wants to be in that lineup every single day, and he's capable. He's absolutely capable of, I mean, let's face it, the last couple of years, Andrew McCutchen has been one of the Pirates' best hitters, and he's proven that he still can do it. But we're at the point where the Pirates are starting to make some clear improvements within that lineup, getting guys who are going to change the complexion of it. And you feel like there's still a bat away from actually making significant improvement and kind of changing 1 through 9. And I don't know. I have doubts whether Kutch fits into that when it comes to what the Pirates want to do, and then also when it comes to what he would want. I think he wants to be a guy who plays rather regularly. I wouldn't say that he's opposed to being considered a bench guy, but I think that he would want to play rather regularly. And someone in the comments mentioned, Joey Bart maybe needing some DH at bats, and, with Henry Davis behind the plate, and just kind of having both of those guys get the at bats that they need. That's just adding another player to the mix of, guys that would need those at bats that not sure if you can give them to Kutch at that point.
Yeah, sure. And Dominic, I mean, do you think that there's anything left in the tank for Kutch also to be warranted the opportunity to play for this team? Because if you do look at last year, numbers wise, it's one of his worst, and especially for the Pirates tenure, but obviously of his career also.
Some of the things he mentioned last year were like the balls and them like dying on the warning track. I know he was mentioning that a bunch, and also recently he mentioned that the PNC Park should have smaller dimensions, especially in left field. I mean, maybe if the Pirates do that, they'll bring him back. But I mean, he has some points. I think the Pirates overall, I think the front office mentioned it. Ben mentioned it a lot. Like their expected batting average was a lot higher than what it ended up being. But I mean, there's no doubt this team wasn't a great hitting team last year, regardless. And McCutchen obviously didn't have the year he probably would have wanted. So I think he still has something in there. I think he still would be an important member of this team if they bring him back. Like you guys have mentioned, playoff success. The fans love him. He's a hero in the city, probably one of the best Pirates of all time. There's no question about that. I think the question is just if he would want to be in a smaller role. And again, like I said, I don't know, but maybe the Pirates have a bigger role for him. I think he could play in the outfield. They definitely could give Cruz and Reynolds some time off if needed, and maybe in left field if they don't have an idea of what they want there yet. But at least for Kutch, definitely center and right field to me seem like places he could play and he would want to play if he's given that opportunity.
Sure. Yeah, and Doug, let's end this with you. Let's talk about leadership. I mean, there's some valid comments here in the chat. Like he's been on the team for 3 years. This team has gone nowhere. Is his leadership all that important? Is it much of anything? Like, does he really matter about being on this team? What's your thoughts on that?
I've never put that much stock in his leadership, other than the lead by example, which he does quite well. I don't think he's giving rah-rah speeches and rallying the troops, that sort of thing. And I understand that he was a little frustrated last year because he didn't get enough playing time. But I mean, I'm 107 years old, fat, bald, and out of shape, and I would be frustrated if G1 Bay and Jack Sawinski were getting at bats over me. So I can only imagine that would frustrate Kutch. He may be less frustrated now when some of those at bats are going to Ryan O'Hearn and Brandon Lau and Reynolds and Cruz, whoever cycling through the DH spot. Again, I think he can add some value. Again, they just won't play him in the outfield, which seems absurd to me. They didn't do it with Shelton, and it didn't change when, I thought maybe when Donnie Kelly took over that would change, but it didn't. That would help and make his case a little better, I think. But, again, just from a young players watching a guy, draw a walk, we could use that on this team, right? I mean,
for sure,
that right there, just as far as his leadership or leading by example, I think he'd help out a ton that way. So, I hope if he wants to come back, I hope he comes back. Right? We're not on the cusp of the World Series here. Kutch, has been the best player on the Pirates have had this century. He, for a generation of fans, he is the guy. So yeah, hopefully it works out, comes back. Hopefully, we catch some lightning in a bottle and he can go out on sort of a winning note, not that, these past 3 seasons that he's had to suffer through. I think he adds a lot of positives, and I hope he's back.
Okay. Well, appreciate the talk here about Kutch. Let's move on to the next topic, the hot topic. We just saw last night that the Dodgers gave Kyle Tucker 4 years, $240 million. So, as it seems like every time the Dodgers do something, the talk is about salary cap. So I'm going to ask you guys, at this point in time too, I mean, I think we're at like a tipping point, especially the CBA coming up. Is it now or never for salary cap? And kind of put this out there. The updated FanDuel odds now for the Dodgers wins total is 104.5. That's where we're at right now. So for the $500 million Dodgers, are we looking at a salary cap? Do we want a salary cap? What's your thoughts on a salary cap? Let's go ahead and start with you this time, Doug.
I mean, philosophically, I'm against it, but baseball needs something. They need a salary cap. All the other sports have one. We should mention that with a salary cap comes a salary floor. Anything to get the Pirates to spend more, make them spend more, would make me happy. I still don't think that they would spend as wisely as some of the other teams, but I don't think baseball wants a salary cap. Last year, the they had the Dodgers and the Blue Jays. That's the number 2 market in the country, and Toronto would be number 4. And then, they had a whole other country paying attention. The year before, they had the Dodgers and the Yankees. That's what they want every year. They want Dodgers, Yankees. They want Red Sox, Red Sox, Cubs, that sort of thing. They do not want Pirates Athletics in the World Series. They don't want a Pirates Royals World Series. They just don't. And a salary cap may allow, to see the clash of Pittsburgh versus Tampa someday. And 7 people would watch it. 5 of us are on this podcast right now. So I just don't think they won't. And I know they like telling this story that, oh gosh, the Dodgers are breaking baseball. And, and then they're going to say, gee whiz, we can't lose any time. We barely came back from the last work stoppage, and people didn't have Netflix and all these other options. They didn't have WNBA. They didn't have the Premier League soccer, all these other things that people can watch now and fill the void. Baseball goes away now. Whew. If they go away for an extended length of time, it's going to be hard, awfully hard. And especially if they go away for a long time and then don't really fix it, come back as business as usual. So, I'd love it. I would love it just because the Pirates would have to spend, and it's about the only thing that will make them spend, but I don't see it happening.
Mr. Campbell.
Yeah, I'll agree with a lot of what Doug said. I don't exactly know if baseball would want a salary cap. The players would surely fight against it. I think really reports that Harper told the commissioner to off basically when he came into the locker room and just really got in his face about that. I can't imagine that wouldn't be the same thing with, him and a bunch of the other top players being like, are you gonna be crazy talking about a salary cap? But yeah, I think there's no way that a lot of these ownerships can compete with the Dodgers, but at the same time, these owners even tried to compete at all? That's one of the issues that I have. It's you can't spend 300, 400 million on payroll, but you're not even at 100 million. You're not even 150 million. You're hardly paying your star players. You're making excuses to why you can't. And it's easy to get mad at the Dodgers. I get it, but they do a lot of things really well outside of just giving a ton of money to free agents. They scout really well. Internationally, they do fantastic, not just with Ohtani, but other guys. Their farm system's generally very good, even though they don't have the best draft picks. They are a very well-run organization with obviously a massive ownership group, which allows them to do what they do. But to me, it's just I don't know if baseball would be willing to throw away a whole season for a salary cap. I think they'll try to find different ways to increase the competitive balance. Obviously, we see with revenue sharing and other aspects that baseball has tried to make things a bit better, but I'm not exactly sure all 30 owners are yes, let's get a salary cap, and that they're all willing to go to war with the players who are far more a big no on that. It would have to be, the players would have to get a huge concessions as well if you're getting rid of a salary cap. I mean, look at the years of control teams have over players. I think they would have to get rid of that or shorten them by a lot, and arbitration and things like that. I think if you're not willing to concede that to players have no reason to really be let's get rid of the salary cap, because the deals are very lucrative in free agency. Even for players that aren't top dog, they still can get 5, 10, 15 million money they might not get if they did have a salary cap, right? So at least for me, just to wrap this up, I'm not exactly sure they would do this. And baseball has a lot more problems than just the salary cap, especially with the way regional sports networks are right now. That's a massive disadvantage between teams. I think that's something that, in the NFL, they don't have that problem, but in baseball they do. That's something they really need to fix. And that's amongst the owners, not the players' fault right there. So like I said, I'm not exactly sure if the salary cap is something they're willing to go to war over.
Yeah, good points. Nutzy.
I think 24 owners of the 30 in baseball probably do want a salary cap. I think that there's 6 owners who can kind of sit on their laurels in the big markets and consistently generate revenue, no matter with what their teams are doing. And they get to go out and pick and choose the superstars that they want to select from all of the other markets. And I think that if you look around the league, there's probably a lot of owners that are frustrated with that. It's not like we're wading into the unknown about whether or not a salary cap and salary floor would work. Every other major sport in America does it. You can pick your poison. Are you going to have a hard cap like the NFL does? Are you going to have a soft cap with luxury tax like the NBA does? There's a lot of different options that you could use to fit to Major League Baseball. And you're right, the players would fight against it terribly. And I've always heard the pushback that for players, the salary cap would negatively impact our contracts. It would make our contract values go down, but you really haven't seen that in other sports. You look at quarterbacks in the NFL, you look at the big contracts in the NBA, the best players get paid like the best players. Now, will it shrink up like the Shohei Ohtani contracts or the Juan Soto contracts a little bit? Probably, but then you're going to end up with bigger contracts going to the mid-tier guys, so more teams could hit the floor like we've seen in other sports as well. I think at the end of the day, the only way you fix the competitive balance issue in Major League Baseball is by doing a floor and cap system where the floor is a percentage of the cap and all teams have to spend to the floor. And if teams want to spend a little bit more and hit the cap, that's their prerogative. But I've been having this fight on Twitter with people for the last 12 hours. It does not matter what the Pirates do, what Pirate ownerships do. There is never a single time where they are going to be able to compete financially with the Dodgers. And that makes it really hard as a Pirate fan to buy into the sport of baseball when I know that my team is going to be at a competitive disadvantage for every year for the rest of my life. I would much rather spend my time watching the NFL. I'd much rather spend my time watching the NBA. I'd rather watch the NHL, where I know my team is not, at least financially, going to be held back against the other franchises that are in New York, Chicago, Dallas, whatever big market you want to pick. And I think that, up to this point, I've seen a lot of people say, no one had issues with the Yankees when they would do it in the 2000s. The Yankees were not doing it like this. When the Dodgers have the advantage of being not only in Southern California, a beautiful place with beautiful weather, 75, 80 degrees year round, but then can turn around and say F you to everyone else in the league, we're also going to offer Kyle Tucker $20 million per year more than his market value would dictate. Like, what are you supposed to do in that situation? They have put together an all-star team. And I've seen the backlash of people saying, well, if other teams would have paid their stars, the Dodgers wouldn't have ended up. But if, say, the Pittsburgh Pirates offer Paul Skeens $40 million a year, there is legitimately nothing that's preventing the Dodgers from offering him 55. They can just keep upping it. And eventually it's not going to make financial sense for these smaller markets to throw those contracts around, especially when you're limited budgetarily. And if you miss on one of these big contracts, you have way more serious repercussions than the big markets who can hand out that money willy-nilly and eat the risk of it. I mean, at the end of the day, if we don't have a salary cap in the sport, you're going to see a lot of fans turn off on the sport.
Fair. All right, Jose.
I don't know how I follow any of that from these three, but I'll try my best. I agree with everything that's been said. I mean, a salary cap and floor is absolutely necessary. And I think this particular deal with Kyle Tucker is a perfect example of it. I mean, you look at a guy who is a star player. Kyle Tucker is a 273 career hitter, 230 home run seasons under his belt, a guy who, is going to impact the game with his bat. He's going to impact the game, with his speed. He's an all-around great player. He's a star player. On any team, he would be that star player. The Dodgers, he's just another guy. He's just another star player in their lineup, and they just handed him $60 million a year like it's nothing. Like, this is a guy who, you look at the Dodgers lineup, you look at guys like, Hernandez, and you look at, a guy like Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, the best baseball player on the planet, and Shohei Ohtani. And then you got Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker's, obviously a star player, but when you look at this lineup as a whole, he's just a complimentary piece to add to the rest of the guys that are trying to go for a three-peat and win a third straight World Series. So, they just handed him $60 million a year and said, come join us. It'll be easy, So I think it's a big example today. I think, it's obviously a pretty common opinion that, Tucker being able to sign with the Dodgers for that amount and, over 4 years is a pretty big sign that change is needed.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny that I think Tyler and I a couple weeks ago were talking about the Cubs looking at NL Central, and we said, like, the Cubs are missing their Kyle Tucker. They don't have like that one dude. Very solid lineup, but they don't have like that one dude. And now he just became a dude.
Yes.
Which is kind of wild. We're talking about the Cubs. So
right.
But yeah, go back to Dominic. I want to kind of use what Nutzy said to a point to you, because talk about the owners and the players and stuff like this. Do you think maybe there's some battle between owners on owners? You know, I mean, I maybe kind of agree that this could be the year that more owners are vocal. I don't know who or what, but again, like you're coming to a point now where it's like even the Yankees are looking, saying, what the hell's going on? You know, and it's like when the teams like that are saying this about other teams, like, how can we compete with the Dodgers? Now, you can argue that they could, but when those owners are coming out being kind of vocal about this, do you think there's maybe more turmoil between owners?
Yeah, probably. If they're all looking at the Dodgers and they're like, well, we can't compete, I'm assuming there's going to be a bit of bad blood there. So again, like I said, like if you're going to go for a salary cap, everyone's got to be on board. It can't be like, oh, the Dodgers don't want it, but everyone else does, or like the Dodgers and Red Sox are getting with that. Just give me an example. That's not probably real, but like if everyone's not together on this, the players union is too strong that they would wait it out and they would probably win. Like, but I mean, maybe there is something where the Dodgers are like, you know what, we'll agree to a salary cap, but then they would probably be like, well, I don't want to give up as much in revenue sharing, right? Because I'm assuming big market teams are tired of giving smaller market teams that they see as not trying to spend or win money that they should be pocketing themselves, that maybe they could compete with the Dodgers, or the Dodgers could use to get even better, right? Like that's something where I think they'd probably be like, well, let's look at it this way. But, you know, I never know with the way the owners work. It's just, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and Doug, you know, you talked about options. And that's certainly a thing. I mean, I think a lot of people miss that sports is just entertainment. I mean, it's essentially entertainment for fans. Now, there's a lot of options for entertainment. And when we see soccer, how much it's rising, you talk about Netflix, just going to movies, whatever it is. Can baseball afford to have this battle about salary cap next year because of potentially losing some fans?
I don't think they can. I mean, you guys are all too young, man. That last one, the bad taste in people's mouth, you know, it took Cal Ripken setting the consecutive games played, Rick, and it took the home run battle, you know, to bring it back. And then we've, you know, ostracized all those guys for saving baseball. But because yes, baseball's always been very hypocritical. But no, it's right. It's hard to get fans' attention now. We don't sell out when Paul Skeens pitches, which just stuns me, right? Like it's like this is a once in generation, like take your kids and go to the game type thing. You know, it's tough, man. There seems like there's more options every day, and people's attention spans are growing shorter every day. You know, baseball is tough for a millennial. You know, I'm used to sitting there watching it. That back in the day, it was just the thing to do. But yeah, I don't know. And the other thing I always think about is that, okay, the Dodgers have won the last 2 World Series, and then they won in 2020, and it's, you know, 60 games. I don't really count. But prior to that, they had not won since 1988, and they'd always been one of the top spending teams, right? The Yankees have not won since 2009. Toronto has not won since 92. You know, the Cubs have won 1 since 1908. They've always had money to spend. The Braves have won 2 in 30 some odd years. Houston has got I mean, spending that money has not necessarily been the you know, the Yankees spent like crazy in the 80s. Again, you guys are too. In the 80s, I mean, people were like, George Steinbrenner is single-handedly ruining the game. He's just buying championships, but he wasn't, because they wasn't getting championships. It wasn't until he got suspended and he couldn't mess with the team anymore that they started winning. And I'm also concerned if a salary cap comes in and the Pirates have to spend up to the floor, that they are going to stop spending that. You know, they'll spend less, and, you know, they take their, you know, whatever the money they get, the competitive balance money, and supposedly spend it in scouting and, you know, minor leagues and development people and, you know, facilities in the Dominican, that sort of thing. I think they'll stop spending that money. If they have to put it into salary, suddenly we're going to have 2 scouts, you know, to 2 guys left over from the Moneyball room, you know, saying, hey, he looks good in jeans, you know, you know, so I don't know. I mean, look at the NFL. Tell me how many times Cleveland's won the Super Bowl. You know, tell me how many times Detroit's won. I mean, it's not a cure-all for competition. The Dodgers spend more, definitely. But if you compare our drafts to their drafts, where we're drafting in the top 5 and they're drafting in the bottom 5, they seem to have better players come through their system than we do, and that make a bigger impact and that sort of thing. So I mean, there's again, anything that makes the Pirates spends, I'm happy, but it's just not a simple cure.
Nutzy, you're chomping at the bit here. I feel
Yeah,
like
I am really chomping at the bit for to respond to a few of those things. First of all, I would argue that the Dodgers, everyone says how incredible their farm system is and yada yada yada. How many homegrown players do they currently have on their roster for this last World Series run? It was like 5, right? I think 20 of their 25 roster members were players that were gotten from other teams. So I mean that helps for first and foremost. And yeah, you're right that in other sports, whether it be the NFL or the NBA, there are perpetually bad franchises. There's franchises that are historically bad. It's not because of the financial realities of the sport, though. There's bad ownership. There's bad GMs. There's bad head coaches. There's a lot of things that go into that. And you can say, the team that has the number 1 payroll doesn't win the World Series every year, and that is completely fair. But that's partially because the NBA or the MLB playoffs are so random when you actually get to the playoffs, where a lot of other sports, the cream rises to the top a lot more than Major League Baseball is, because you could have a 3-starter series that, you have 3 starters that shove, and then the better team gets knocked out. But at the end of the day, spending more does equate to better success in Major League Baseball. Of the last 25 MLB champions, I think something like 19 or 20 of them have been in the top 10 in payroll. So you can say the number 1 team in payroll is not winning every time, but spending money does equal success in Major League Baseball. The final piece I wanted to hit on was, I do think the sport could survive a work stoppage right now. I think that in the 80s, you were coming off a time where the sport was in a downward trend, and even through the early 90s, people's interest in the sport was waning, and you hit the work stoppage at a really bad time for when people's interest was actually, at its peak for Major League Baseball. It's also why I don't think you could have done a massive work stoppage post-COVID, because I don't think financially a lot of the teams could have handled an extended work stoppage. Right now, MLB is on the upswing. It's, I think, by all accounts now, the second biggest sport in America again. I think it overtook the NBA for viewership. People are into it. It's the most watched World Series we've had in how long between the Dodgers and Blue Jays this year. If there is ever a time where people would stay tuned in through a work stoppage, I think now is the time, when you have guys like Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani who are going to bring fans back to the game when it does eventually step back up. I just think that if it's not going to happen now, it's never going to happen. And the Dodgers, with signing Kyle Tucker here, have finally put the fan bases as a whole at a point where I think most fans are on board with a salary cap, and the owners can use that to their advantage and leverage the fans against the players to maybe get what they want.
Good stuff. Now, as host, I just want to say, to be fair, Doug's using his NS9 privilege to put up comments that are propaganda pro Doug.
No, they were anti-Doug.
Into voting.
They both said Doug lost my vote. That's not pro Doug. I don't know if you know.
Afterwards, you didn't show those comments though, Doug. So
that's all I did.
I'm giving you a 5% deduction on the final votes.
That's crazy. The only comment.
Doug, stop it.
The only comments I showed were negative against me.
All right. And I want to go back to
Gregory turning their backs on me, man. I tell you,
I want to go back to Jose because, I think with all this also, again, we're talking about ownership and stuff and, the salary cap and whatnot. Like, I think it's maybe not even so much player owner, but owners amongst each other. We're also seeing the RSNs crumbling. Like, there's 8 or 9 teams right now that are kind of in limbo. Are we going to go another route? Are we going to MLB? Do you think the RSNs right now are also playing into this upcoming CBA and potentially leading towards talks of a salary cap?
I don't know. I honestly like. I feel like. I feel like just the salary cap just will never, like, you're never going to get everybody involved and everybody on board with this. Like I just feel like even on the player side, it's not going to benefit the superstar players are never going to want to have this in place. I mean, Dom mentioned Bryce Harper, being very much against this. A lot of these big name guys are going to be against this. I mean, the guys who are just now getting paid all this money are not going to want a salary cap in place. It'll benefit the guys who are making league minimum and the guys who aren't going to get these big, huge deals. But it doesn't seem like it's ever going to come to fruition. And even like all the owners aren't going to always be on board. Like you're going to have a majority, but you're never going to have them all, be all in. And so, yeah, it would benefit the sport without question. I don't think that I don't think you'd really lose much from the fan base in terms of, losing fans from the game of baseball because of this. I think that they would be able to withstand a lockout or, whatever might happen here in 2027. But I just can never see it happening. It's a shame, but you're not going to have people, you're not going to have everybody on board with it. I don't even know if I answered your question, to be honest, but there it is.
Well, there it is. Well, no, good discussion, good talk. So let's kind of bring this thing all together, tied in with contracts that seem to be a little bit higher than we expected in the Pirates. So obviously after the Kyle Tucker news and MLB as a whole right now, I mean, there's like a flurry of moves happening. So if you blink, you might miss something. But also today they followed the Kyle Tucker stuff with the Mets, who obviously I think they thought they had Tucker in the bag. Since that didn't happen, they pivoted, signed Bo Bichette, 3 years, $126 million. With that said, though, I think Pirates fans might be kind of interested in this because, hey, Pirates need a third baseman. They brought in Bo to, they said, play third base. So they have options out there that could be kind of enticing in a trade. Does this maybe open things up for the Pirates? Are the Mets like a legit destination to be a trade partner for? Let's go ahead and start this one with Dominic.
Well, obviously, I think a lot of Pirates fans wouldn't mind seeing Brent Batty in a Pirates uniform next year. Had a pretty solid 2025 campaign, very solid defensively, I would say. But also, I mean, I think he had almost 20 home runs as well. The Pirates need some home runs, obviously, with the additions of O'Hearn and Lau. You have that in the lineup, but I like Batty a lot. But and I know Vientos is another player people have looked at, but he's not as strong defensively. Didn't have quite as good of a season as Batty did. So I think the question is, in terms of like a trade between both parties, I don't know. It depends on what the Mets would want, because I remember reports that the Pirates are trying to trade some of their prospects away, and teams were more like, well, we want to win. We want like top end talent to trade for. We don't want like, your 10th best prospect who might be good in like 3 years. Just give me like a random example, but
sure.
If the Mets would run prospects, the Pirates do have a few guys that they probably would be willing to part ways with if that means they could help them compete this season. I would assume. I mean, like they have a few players that maybe they're not going to trade, like obviously Connor Griffin or like maybe like Edward Florentine would probably be off limits, but I think a lot of the other guys would be on the table if a team would be like, yeah, we want him. And I'm assuming they would probably throw in like another like major league player in there, like maybe, I don't know, like what if a Joey Bart, maybe that there you see they might rather just run with Flores and Davis for next season, or they could trade or somebody else. Like that just seems like I think that would make a little bit of sense there for the Pirates if they're like, hey, like we can get this guy, he's on his third year pre-arbitration, he has 3 more years of team control. That seems like a great deal, but it would depend on how the Mets value Batty, who they apparently want to play in left field. So like they seems like they are at least his agent is like saying like, hey, we like this guy, we want to stay in New York, we can play somewhere else. But yeah, I mean the Pirates would benefit from landing Batty, or Vientos would be a decent addition as well. They need another bat really, so either player would be fine. But if the Pirates could get Batty, I think that'd be a pretty solid addition. And I know the Pirates would look in the trade market first over a free agent signing there.
Okay, Nutzy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Mets make sense just because they kind of have a logjam at third base now. Brett Batty, a good player, Last year was the first year he looked like what his top prospect status would be. Personally, if I was making a decision for the Pirates, I think Vientos is the player that makes the most sense, just because he's a right-handed hitter. He gives you power potential. He's 1 year removed from giving you 27 home runs in a season. And I really like that. Plus, after the season he did have last year, it's a potential like buy low, high upside pickup. You've seen him be able to do it at the major league level, and I think he fits with what the lineup desperately needs right now. Now, I will say there's one player that I'm not seeing a lot of people talk about that I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on, and that's Ronnie Mauricio. Because he's a little bit in the O'Neal Cruz vein. He's a switch hitter. He can play third. He came up as a shortstop. He could probably play second on top of that. So the positional diversity helps there. And he hits the ball really, really hard. Now, he hasn't gotten a whole lot of playing time because he's stuck behind a whole lot of players in the Mets, but he was regarded as a top prospect coming up through the Mets system. I will say the one thing that the Mets do need that the Pirates have a lot of is healthy pitchers. Last year, their playoff run was kind of derailed because their whole starting rotation got hurt throughout the year, and they just ran out of arms. So they would love nothing more than some of these young arms that the Pirates have that could get them. I think if I was a betting man right now, I would prefer Vientos over Batty. I don't think either of them are my favorite option potential at third base, but as kind of, trades versus going out and get free agents, I think the Mets make a lot of sense.
All right. Go ahead, Jose. I think you're on mute.
There we go. I think both options make a lot of sense. I think Vientos probably a little bit more sense just because you need another right-handed bat in there after adding some left-handed power with O'Hearn and Lau. So you want to get another righty in the mix. And, Vientos had a really strong 2024, struggled a little bit more in 2025, but I think he could be a good option over at third base. Beatty, being able to have, it seemed like he kind of figured out his way in 2025. So, and I add another lefty bat that can, do what he does at PNC Park. Obviously wouldn't hate that. It's also harder, I think, to go down the trade market right now because, you've dealt from your major league pitching depth, and that was kind of that was the goal. The goal was to say, we have all this pitching. Let's use it to get some bats. And, you trade Johan Oviedo, you get a top 100 prospect in Justinson Garcia. And, that's a good first step. Then you make that trade for Brandon Lau, a trade that, I still really give the Pirates a lot of credit for making, because you give up a guy like Mike Burrows and you got a lot in return when it came to not just Brandon Lau, but getting Jake Mangum, being able to get Mason Montgomery into the mix as well. And you only give up a guy like Burrows, who is a good pitcher, but in this rotation, he's probably viewed as the number 5 starter. So it's, you give up those two guys, and now you're looking for major league starting pitching at the back end of the rotation. And you got to kind of look at, all right, let's look at our prospect pool. And that's what you're going to have to trade from in order to get, some of these guys. And I imagine that, the asking price for Vientos or Beatty wouldn't be, astronomical, but it's also, not going to be small. These are two 26-year-olds who are just going to be entering arbitration in 2027. So, it's not going to be, you're not going to be trading your number 15 ranked prospect in the system and saying, oh, we'll get rid of that guy and then we'll get, our starting third baseman for 2026. There's going to be, you're going to have to deal from some of those top 10 prospects, maybe even some of the top 5. But, and I even look at, if Bo Bichette goes to Philadelphia, which that looked like it was kind of going to happen until the Mets swooped in here and made this happen. If he goes to Philadelphia, that probably, boosts the trade, the possibility of a trade for Alec Boehm, who's, has 1 year here in 2026 before he turns into a free agent. So that's another avenue I think that they can still pursue. But this Bichette signing with with the Mets definitely opens up 2 more trade options that they can consider. Obviously, like Dom said, they want Beatty to play multiple positions, including left field. So if they decide to keep him, then maybe they're more interested in trading Vientos. And I think Vientos can play a little bit of first base too. So, maybe they throw him over there in addition to Jorge Polanco, or, there's some options there in terms of versatility for those 2 guys. But I mean, I think it's worth at least pursuing and seeing what you can do. Because if you look at the free agent market, aside from Eugenio Suarez, there's not much there in terms of third baseman. So you might have to make something happen here.
Okay, Doug, let's see if you can make up that 5% deduction.
I'm going to file a complaint with the board. Yeah, I mean, the Mets would be a great trade partner. I just don't know what we can afford to trade that could get one of those guys back. I mean, I'm surprised that we traded 2 guys that I thought would start the season in the rotation. We all thought that Keller was gone, and they've kept Keller, and that's great. But who's our number 5 starter right now? All right, is it Barco? Is Barco ready? Barco didn't look ready to me, So when we all assume that they'll sign, that $5 to $7, $8 million guy, that's fine. But all 5 guys aren't making it through the season. We have 2 guys that are going to pitch more than 150 innings. Everybody else is going to be on some pitch limits and, that sort of thing. So is Tamar Johnson and, Nick Gonzalez going to get you one of those guys? I mean, I don't know who they're going to trade to get back a third baseman. So I'll be interested to see what they do. You're right. The third base market does not look good in free agency. Trade would be the best way to get you somebody, but I don't see how they're going to pull it off. I'm already worried about innings. So,
all right. Well, I'm officially opening up the polls so everyone can vote on tonight's winner. But at this point in time, I'll also open it for you guys as well. Any rebuttals, any last discussions on the Mets, or just maybe you guys have, even though this is opened up, maybe you guys think that there's a better fit still.
I mean, I think the Mets make sense. Obviously, I think Eugenio Suarez, just because of the power potential and the amount of home runs he could bring into PNC would be awesome. But I don't think monetarily he necessarily makes sense in Pittsburgh. My thing with Vientos, and I understand the fear for getting rid of pitching, given we've traded pitching so far this offseason. If you could give up someone like a Triolo and then maybe throw in Harrington. Do I love that? No, but I think the third baseman is way more impactful for what the Pirates need right now than a back end starter, especially when guys like Tyler Anderson are out there. You can fill that hole. And we've seen the Pirates fill that hole very effectively with free agent pickups, inning eating guys over the last handful of years. There are always going to be free agents, if you're willing to spend the money, that can slot in your 4th or 5th rotation spot until some of those younger guys, until Jared Jones gets healthy, or some of those younger guys like Barco can show that they're rotation ready arms. I think that third base is just such a glaring hole in the roster, in the lineup right now, that if you don't fix it, I think it negatively impacts the ability to make the playoffs.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to add on. I agree with that 100%. Especially, mentioned the fact that Jared Jones is also going to be pitching for this team in 2026. So looking like early in the season, hopefully if everything continues to go well for him. So you don't have as much depth at the major league level as you once had. There's no question about that. You're right now you're counting on, without a free agent acquisition, Hunter Barco is basically, I guess, your number 5. That's just kind of how it is right now. Or you go to, I hate to say Karu Majinski, but Karu Majinski is also in that area at this point, at this moment in time.
That's fair to say at this point. Yeah.
It just because of, trading Oviedo, trading, Mike Burrows, those are your 2 guys at this very moment. If you go out and you, not only do you sign, one free agent arm, maybe go out and sign two. Get two veteran arms in the mix there. Allow Hunter Barco to kind of develop even more, and maybe midseason, he's an option. Maybe out of spring training, he surprises us like Jared Jones once did, and he earns his spot. So there's opportunity there. There's opportunity to get some depth. I think you need to get some starting pitching depth here. Go out and get a Jose Quintana, go out and get a Tyler Ant, get them both. Why not? Go get two lefty arms who are familiar with this organization, who've had some decent success over the last couple of years, who have pitched in some, big games and have plenty of major league experience, have them battle for those back end rotation spots. And, when Jones comes into the mix, that helps. And, the more that Barco can develop, that helps as well. So I think you need to go and you need to pursue a third baseman in some way. Like you need to add another bat, and it has to, I think, be over at that third base position.
Jose apparently thinks Bob's got a coupon. Buy one, get one half off on these pitchers. Any last words before we go to argue why you guys should win?
I think as much as I would love to see the Pirates fix all their problems this offseason, I think it's going to take more than one offseason to do it. I think that this team really was just loved to watch pitching last year. That was a lot of fun, but hitting wise, it was torture at times. Figuratively, it wasn't quite physical torture, but it was hard because
I can attest it was physical as well.
It was physical pain, right?
Okay, fine. Okay, it was
still recovering.
This team hasn't had a winning season in 7 seasons, hasn't made the playoffs in 10 years. They're going to have to do a bit more. They're going to have to win this year. Then obviously lockout impacts this, but going forward, then if they start winning, they'll be able to have better free agent deals and better trading that they're not going to be able to do this season. I think that obviously having Oviedo coming back and Burrows having a season that he did allowed the Pirates to get some of those additions, but I really think they're going to need more seasons going forward to have better off seasons, have better acquisitions. I mean, even in the 2010s, it took them a while to really get it to the playoffs. Like they had 2011, 2012, they were good at times, but obviously those collapses, but better off seasons over time, better decisions. They were able to make the playoffs after that. So I still think the Pirates are going to need more than this offseason to get really good. I think they'll probably make another bad addition. I don't know what it'll be, but they're going to need more additions as the years go on. And there'll be some tough decisions, but I think if they can have a successful season this year, they'll have better winters going forward.
Okay. Doug.
Yeah, listen, we need a third baseman. We need another starting pitcher. Get it done, Ben. I'd also like to say R.I.P. Dave Justy, a great closer, 4th all-time on the Pirates save list, 10 2/3 scoreless innings in the 71, NLCS and World Series. That's what you want your closer to do. The first package of baseball cards I ever bought had a Dave Justy card in it. He was my first closer. What about, special place in my heart. Was a great guy, great in the community. So shout out to Dave Justy and condolences to his friends and family.
Didn't know you started collecting cards at 50, Doug. So
yeah, I mean, I have some of the old cigar cards now. Those are different. My Honus Wagner, but they didn't start putting them in those little packets for a while. So.
Jose, why are you tonight's winner?
Oh man, I don't know. This has been a really good discussion. It's hard to kind of speak my, kind of promote myself, I guess, in a sense here, just because the conversation's been really good and everybody's brought up some really great points. But yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know. I don't want to say why I'm the winner. Whoever wins. I tip my cap to you, and I'm excited to enjoy some warm weather in a few weeks.
Jose was here for all the friends to make along the way. All right, Dominic, why are you tonight's winner?
This is my first time, and I think I did a pretty good job. Could have been a bit better, but I think overall I explained my points pretty well, and I should just win it because it was my first time. Give me a little pat in the back for just being here first time and coming on doing what I did.
There you go. The first time boost. Nutzy.
I'm the winner because I'm the best that's ever done it. I wake up and I piss excellence. I'm 1-0 on this show, and I'm going to make it 2-0 on this show. No, in all actuality, I think everyone did a great job today. I think we all had good points, even if maybe we were a little bit too soft on Kutch. But can you blame us? He's a franchise great. no one wants to watch the players from their childhood or their younger years fade off into the sunset. No, all these guys are great. All are deserving of a win. I'm just happy to be on again.
And Doug.
I don't deserve to win. I don't even deserve to be here. Right? All three guys were great. I really enjoyed it. All three of you were terrific. You really did a good job. So I've just enjoyed listening to your points. You guys were fantastic. I would not vote for me. So I encourage you and on top of that, I've been penalized for things I didn't do. And no, I made my points. I stand by them, but these guys were great. So that's where I'd be voting for one of them.
The self-pity, Doug. Reverse
No
psychology.
self-pity, man.
Vote for me.
Some days you're the bug,
Tactic.
some days you're the windshield. They got me today. They were good. We brought in some studs, man, some ringers.
All right. Well, we'll end the poll as of right now. So I appreciate everyone for voting. And as it stands, Nutzy is tonight's winner, 36%.
Oh, I was robbed.
Of the votes. Nutzy speech.
I mean, I kind of gave you the speech. I'm the best that's ever done it. I'm the best person to ever come on this show. Every time you bring me on, I win. I mean, it's just what I do. No, like I said previously, I am very appreciative to come on, and I'm super excited. This is probably the most hopeful or excited I've been for a Pirates season in a very, very long time. Just there's a lot of good pieces that have been added. I get to watch Paul Skeens pitch in PNC another year. I get to watch this year lead off by him carrying the US through the WBC. Like, just so many fun things to look forward to in Pirates fandom this year. Hopefully I can make it out for some games. It's tough being in Montana, but for the first time in a while, I think that the Pirates are going to be in contention, if not throughout the whole year, very, very deep in the year. And it's going to be really good for the city of Pittsburgh to see good, solid, competitive baseball.
Well, there you have it. Well, congratulations, Nutzy, 2-0 on the point. And appreciate everyone for watching, for voting, tuning in. We'll be back, of course, Monday morning for another Bucko Brew. Jim won't be on, so it'll be very much enjoyable. So like, subscribe, do all the fun stuff. We love you guys. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
All right, that wraps up this episode of North Shore 9. Thanks so much for tuning in, whether you're listening on the podcast or catching us on YouTube. If you enjoyed the show, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps us grow. And if you're listening on the podcast, a quick review goes a long way in helping others find the show. Plus, be sure to tell a friend about us. There's always room for more here in the NS9 community. And for those looking to support us a little more, consider joining our Patreon, become an MVP member, and get exclusive perks while helping us continue to bring you more of the Pirates content you love. Thanks again for all your support, and let's go Bucks.